up in a small town of Buena Vista, Georgia. It's in South Georgia. You know, everybody kind of thinks there's really nothing significant about the place they grew up in, and you know, it's like, well, this was just always the way it was. So you're like, things don't, you know, make a big difference when you find out, you know, different things about the histories of your county or town or whatever. But I was going to tell you a little bit about the county I lived in, because as I grew up, I learned a lot more about the history, and it kind of is a little awesome. Let's see. Marion County is the county where Buena Vista is located, and it was chartered in 1827, which was 2 years after the Creek Indians signed the Indian Springs Treaty to give up the land. The county seat was initially set up in Horry by like 9 people. I don't know how 9 people set up a county seat, but it was 9 people. And Tazewell, Georgia, actually won out for the county seat. And then about 2 years later, they changed it to Pea Ridge and renamed it to Buena Vista after President Zachary Taylor's victory in the Mexican Revolutionary War. And so that's a little bit about the town itself. It was between the years of 1827 and 1876, Buena Vista, or Marion County, actually gave up land to Chattahoochee, Crawford, Macon, Sly, Sumter, Taylor, Talbot, and Webster County to give them land, which is, you know, what it looks like today, because it gave up all that land. It was actually created from land from Lee County and Muskogee County, and it was gigantic, which is why it was able to give up land to so many different counties and still, you know, be in existence today. Buena Vista has got some cool places and, you know, cool people. We have Josh Gibson, who was a famous Negro League baseball player. There is the Pasquan, which is a little weird, but it's really cool in its own way. And then we have the Swamp Fox Distillery, which is really cool to have, you know, a distillery right, you know, where you live. Josh Gibson was born in 1911, and he lived in Buena Vista, Georgia. His family moved to Pittsburgh in the 20s, you know, looking for better work and a place for him to actually play baseball, because his love for baseball and his talent actually started and, you know, grew in Buena Vista. And he actually dropped out of trade school and started playing semi-professional ball, and then eventually went to the Negro League. He played for the Grays and the Pittsburgh Crawfords, and he actually, they used to call him the Black Babe Ruth. He played and was known for his home runs. He actually, you know, he led the Grays to 9 consecutive Negro League championships in his career, which is almost unheard of. His actual stats are a little disputed, because for some reason they're not like written down anywhere. But he actually hit 84 home runs in 1936. And over the course of his career, actually, he hit over 800 home runs. He died in 1847. He was 36, and he was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1972. The Pasquan was built by Eddie Owens Martin. Some think he was a little crazy. He actually created his own religion, and he was the only practicer and the only priest. He was 14 when he ran away from home from an abusive father. He went to New York, and during an illness, he actually said a voice from the spirit world came and told him he was going to be Saint Ohm, which is actually spelled E-O-M, and he was going to be a Pesconian. I think that's how you pronounce that. And he moved back to Buena Vista and took his family's land and created this palace. It's like mud and cement and all of that. He created that, and he lived there until the day he died. According to Spaces, it's a website for art around the world. He actually shot himself in 1986, saying that he built that to be in a place where he belonged, and that was, where he was, and he was aging, and he was depressed, and he ended up shooting himself. But the Pasquan actually still is in existence. The Columbus State University actually, about 2 years ago, redid the entire thing, fixed the statues and repainted, and it looks today like it did when he finished it. It's amazing. And then, of course, there's the distillery. The distillery's building was actually built in 1908. It started off life as a cotton exchange and warehouse. There's two doors, like two main doors, that they used to drive trucks through the warehouse, and they would house the cotton on either side and were able to load trucks. They had truck scales around the side of the building that would weigh the trucks to make sure that they had the right amount of cotton going to where they needed it to go to. Those scales were actually still in use up until 1982, both of them. There's one that's on the outside, and there's a smaller one for smaller vehicles on the inside of the building. In the early 90s, it was remodeled for a country music museum, and that was what it was used for up until about 98, 99, and then it got shut down. And in January of this year, the building was actually remodeled again to house the distillery, and the distillery opened its doors on October the 13th of 2018 this year, and they sell 4 different types of liquors, and it's actually amazing because almost the entire floor is completely original. Then they still have both of the main doors. They have the original safe that was in the building, and they did have to sink the floor because in the middle of the floor, the floor was actually rotten, so they couldn't salvage it, and they had to sink it. Then put the distillery in there. So everything in that building is almost original, except for just a few things here and there. But and that's just some of the things that I've learned here recently, about my hometown, and kind of makes me proud to be from something so big that's actually so small.